You know, with so much dystopian media out in the world, I think I speak for most of us when I say that I'm getting a little bored. Overthrowing governments, fighting tyranny, it's just so overdone. Well, what if I told you that you could get all the aesthetics of dystopia with none of the substance? What if I told you that the thing to take down a corrupt society is actually an ill-fated Tinder match and the decision to swipe right or swipe left? Well, without further ado, hello, welcome back. It is a new day, a new sleigh, and a new video where I have something to say, and today I'm going to be reviewing Matched. So as many of you know, I just finished my YA dystopian retrospective series where I reviewed Divergent, The Maze Runner, The Hunger Games, and Legend. And I decided, after all that deep critical analysis, that I wanted to do something a little more lighthearted to wrap up the series. So I decided to go back to my roots and find the very first dystopian novel that I ever read as a teenager, and that was Matched by Ali Condi. This book stands pretty clear in my memory. It came out in 2010, and I think I read it a few years after that. But this was one of the books that I felt was really in the dystopian craze. I honestly don't know too many other people that have read it, and I haven't even looked at any reviews on GoodReads or anywhere else. I should do that. Let's see. Wait, what? Wait. Hold on. Am I uncovering tea right now? What is happening? The top review on GoodReads is from October 5th of 2011. So supposedly in this person's review, they have a chat log of some kind from AOL back in 2001 between Ali Condi and Lois Lowry. Wait, hold on. This cannot be real. A Condi Hottie, that's funny, says, "Oh my gosh, Lois Lowry, you're actually online. You're my favorite author. Your books are so rad. I want to write a book just like it. I wish The Giver had more romance though. My book would have romance. Please tell me this is fake." Ali says, "I'm almost finished with my book, but I keep writing myself into corners. In fact, my book just seems to trundle along happily, nothing much really happening." Ali Condi then says, "It's actually kind of boring. I've fallen asleep a couple times while writing it, LOL. Don't get me wrong, my book is about horny teens, truth and justice in a repressed society, and yours is just about truth and justice in a repressed society. So it's different, but the same, because you're a genius and I like your ideas." And then Lois Lowry logs off. Ali responds, "Did you receive the arc of my book Matched? I mailed one to you last week." She says, "Yes. What do you think?" Okay. Ali says, "What do you think?" And Lois Lowry responds, "I think you should find yourself a lawyer." And then Ali, this cannot be real. I have to look at the comments. Holy Yeah, this was totally fake. I 100% fell for it. In my defense, I am living in a post-Kate Corain society, so posting receipts in a GoodReads review, that's not super far-fetched, I don't think. Anyway, this is why media literacy is so important. This is why you have to do more research. Don't just believe the first thing you see, and read the comments. Yeah, I was a little stupid here, but that's okay. I didn't know. I'm bashful. I am just floored that someone would put this much effort. They essentially wrote a Wattpad story. I will say I've never seen anyone do something like that. You got me for a hot second. I thought this was real. I thought these were real transcripts of messages between these two people. That was a funny little detour I just went on. Anyway, needless to say, a lot of people don't like this book. And rereading it, there's a lot of nostalgia because I have such fond memories of reading this as a kid. But now that I'm older, and especially because I was reading it with dystopia in mind, I was coming off the backs of The Hunger Games, Divergent. Divergent isn't a great example, but I had those themes and topics in mind. So when I read Matched, it was not meeting the same markers that I had set out for the previous books. But anyway, as a brief summary, Matched is book 1 in a trilogy followed by Crossed and Reached. It follows Casia Reyes on her 17th birthday. Well, I don't think it's it's not exactly on her 17th birthday, I think it's like a month afterward, she is going to her matching banquet. So in her society, the government, which is ironically also called the society, puts her into a pool with other recently 17-year-olds, and they decide who's going to be paired up together. They get matched. So they pair you up with someone based on your compatibility, and they don't give us a lot of specifics, but we can assume because the society is based on like numbers and probability that they use some kind of like statistics and other data to properly find you a match. So at her celebration, Casia is matched with her childhood best friend, Xander, which is already abnormal because in the society, people are usually matched with others from different provinces. So Casia considers herself to be like the luckiest girl alive, that she actually knows who her match is. So at this banquet, she receives a microcard which has all of Xander's data and information on it, essentially his dating profile. So when she goes home and loads it into her computer, they call them ports, when she loads it, she sees someone else's face on the screen. This person is Kai Markham, a boy who recently, I think like a few years ago, moved into her neighborhood. The circumstances of him moving into this neighborhood were a little off to say the least, and him and Casia don't really interact with each other on a normal basis. But now that she saw his face on her microcard, she starts getting confused. The officials tell her that it was a glitch and she has nothing to worry about, but Casia now is having doubts about who her match actually is. Casia starts running into Kai more and more often, and as the summer goes on, they start getting closer. Slowly, as their romance evolves, the society starts to crumble, and Casia is able to see the corruption within her utopia. So that is the spoiler-free summary of Matched. If you want to read it for yourself, you can. Otherwise, I'll be going into the spoilers and my overall analysis of the first book. But anyway, going forward, right now I'm going to talk about the society and just how interesting they are in this book. So again, just to be clear, there is society as in the group of people, and then there is the society, which is the government, the thing that controls everyone, capital T, capital S, the society. So with any dystopian book, the most important thing you want to look at is the government, the system of power, aka the antagonist. So let's take a closer look at the society and how it is that they function. So first and foremost, the society is extremely controlling. That goes without saying. Your work assignments, who you're matched with, how many kids you can have and when, even your meals are all predetermined by the society. No one is really allowed to create anything. There's no such thing as artistry or creativity. There is even a preset list of 100 paintings, poems, songs, even movies that they're allowed to watch. These were all saved during the before times, but when the society was created, they selected 100 of each of these artistic things to save. Everything else was burned. The people in this society also don't know how to write. Anything that they can write, quote unquote, is typed up in a port, and it's all heavily monitored by the society. But like the physical act of taking a pencil and writing, they can't do it. The society also gives their citizens 3 tablets to carry around: a green, red, and blue pill. The green pill is essentially a Xanax. It calms you down instantly. The blue pill is meant to keep you alive in the off chance that you get separated from society and don't have access to food or water. The blue pill will keep you alive. And as for the red pill, no one knows what that pill does, but we find out at some point in this book. Maybe this is the red pill that all those guys are talking about. But the most important function of this society is carrying out the matching ceremony. This is where they match up all the eligible 17-year-olds so that they can eventually go forth and get married and have children. Now, it is an option whether or not you want to be matched. Not everyone is required to actually have a partner. Another interesting aspect of the matching ceremony is that even though you're 17 when you get matched, you don't actually get into a marriage contract until you turn 21. That's a whole 4 years of courting, even though you have literally no other option. You either marry that person or you don't get married at all. Plus, I believe they mentioned that the earliest age that you could start having children was either 23 or 24, because that's peak fertility. Like, that's crazy because 24 having kids, I would be like, I'm 24. I would be a child bride. What do you mean? But eventually you learn that the whole purpose of the matching ceremony and the overarching theme of the book is in fact eugenics. So the whole goal of the society is to create the perfect society. So the matching was created to help breed out diseases. So for example, if someone has risk factors, a family history of getting cancer, they were not allowed to procreate. And they say that because they've bred out these risk factors for disease, the lifespans of people in the society has increased dramatically. Now people can live up to 80, but exactly 80 and not a day later, because the society believes that once you hit 80, that's like the max age that you can be before you start deteriorating. And their mindset is that you really have no use to the society after that. So to anyone that reaches 80 and seems to, be able to live past that, they euthanize them. So in the book, we meet Casia's grandfather, who is about to turn 80 years old, and he's about to have his goodbye banquet. I forgot what it was called, but essentially it's the day before they euthanize him. And we don't find out until later that they poison the elderly. Mind you, this is all what they say like directly to Casia. This is like all the exact information that she finds out. But there are some more like subtle factors of the eugenics. I don't know how intentional this is. Again, with the overall contents of this book, I don't want to give it more credit than I think it deserves. However, Casia's match, the person that she's supposed to be with, the ideal person that she should procreate with, is Xander. Xander is a tall, white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, I could not make this up, man. While Kai, the person she's not supposed to love, the person she's not supposed to be matched with, he has dark eyes, dark skin. He is described as being tan/dark skinned, but at least he has blue eyes. So he has something going for him in terms of the society. And again, I really hate to give the book more credit than it deserves, because truly the commentary on eugenics is like bare minimum. Like a lot of it can be picked up because like I'm aware of what eugenics is. I see the warning signs in this society. But like a lot of this information, Casia finds out like right at the end of the book when her official is giving her like villain monologue speech. And up to this point, Casia's frustration with the society is based on like how unfair she thinks it is. Truly, it just starts out as her wanting the choice of who she should be matched with. She wants Kai to be an option for her. She's really more upset about her lack of choice versus like, I don't know, getting bred like cattle. Then as she learns more about his life, his struggles, she wants him to have the same opportunities as her. Because we find out at some point in the book that Kai is what's called an aberration. So essentially, his father committed an infraction against society and the whole family was punished. So aberrations don't get the same benefits from society. They don't carry around those pills. For one, they're not allowed to carry them. They work all like the hard labor, blue collar jobs. They also don't get those like goodbye ceremonies, and their lifespans aren't as long. So the society doesn't do as much work to keep them alive till 80. Now, granted, I have read the second book. I know it goes beyond that, and there is like a little bit more to the dystopia, to the actual like social commentary. But if you just look at the first book, by the end of it, after she finds out about all this corruption, after Kai is sent away to fight on the front lines, her only goal is to find Kai. No government overthrow for right now. No, I don't know, warning to all her friends and family about what's going on. She's just like, I need to find Kai. And the only reason that she's really intent on finding him is because one of the big events that happens in the book is that Casia is given a test. Before she gets her official work assignment, they take her to this sorting facility where she's supposed to look at these group of workers and put them into two separate categories. The higher performing workers will then be sent for a new job assignment. One of the workers is Kai, but he is like performing right in the middle. He's not too good, he's not too bad, he's just like perfectly average. And Casia is like, well, I want him to stay here with me because I'm selfish. Literally, she says this. But she's like, no, that's not fair. I'm denying him a better opportunity elsewhere. So she sends him with all the high performers. Little does she know she's actually sending those people off to the front lines of a war. So she feels bad that she sent him to the front lines, as, you know, she should, because she's telling herself in her mind as she's like trying to figure out where to put him, she's like, well, he would probably want me to keep him here so that like he doesn't get anyone's attention, like, because that's his whole thing. He's incredibly intelligent. He's like a very capable human being, but he underperforms so that he doesn't, you know, get anyone's attention. So she knows that he would probably just want to stay right where he is. He wouldn't want to be put with the high performers. But she's like, no, because he should want more. So I'm going to give him more. So she ignores all of her instincts. The one time that she's like, you know what, I'm going to do something for the greater good, she actually sends her boyfriend off to war. So she feels bad and she's like, I need to go find Kai. So that is her main goal at the end of book 1, after finding out that the elderly are being poisoned, that she was put into an experiment, that Kai and the, I don't know how many other people alongside him were sent to a war, and all of the other corrupt things that the society has done. Her only goal is to find Kai. So she really has no greater societal intentions. Like, there is no next plan for her. Like, it's just find Kai and then live happily ever after. This does change in the second book because she hears about like a rebellion going on, but even then, like, she is so hesitant to believe that the society is bad. Like, they put her to do grueling farm labor, they sent her boyfriend off to war, and yet the very notion that the society might be poisoning them, she's like, no, they would never. They poisoned your grandfather. So it's very like flip-floppy. She truly cannot stick to one side. Like, after all this evidence, in the first book, it's like not that bad. You can see her clearly starting to go against society and she doesn't trust them and she's being more critical of them. But for some reason, she is like really into the society in book 2. She's like, oh, it's fine. We just have to like clear out the bad apples. Her mindset seems to be more like reformism versus like actual revolution, because to a certain degree, Casia is okay with like the pleasures, luxuries, opportunities that the society affords her. Like, she wants to live a long life. She wants to be happily paired with another person, but she really has no issue or qualms about how it was that the society got there. Like, she's like, oh, I want to live a long life. Okay, great, perfect. But how is it that the society guarantees you that long life? You have no issue with that? Because it's also under the assumption that long lives could not be achieved without the society's intervention. And it's like, it's not the society that's keeping you alive. It's just like basic access to nutrition, safe housing, and medicine. If anyone had those things, whether or not you had the society as a government, you would probably live that long. So in general, Casia is pretty okay with some of the things that she's able to enjoy because of the society. She more so just wants choice. Like, that's her only gripe, that she can't really choose anything that she does. You know, I feel like as far as dystopian novels, even the worst ones are still like, okay, the society's gotta go. The government, we gotta get rid of this. They don't keep part of it and just fix what they don't like, because typically the thing that they don't like is all of it. What a protagonist. Am I right? I mean, truly, who is Katniss Everdeen compared to Casia Reyes? In general, I will say that a lot of the ideas and greater social commentary are just underdeveloped. Like, you can see the little seeds of maybe what the author was trying to say, but it doesn't really get developed, at least not in the first book. I would also say not in the second book. I'll come back if I read the third book and let you know, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that it probably doesn't get better. I think part of it is because it's still unclear what Casia really wants overall. We know what she wants, like, in the exact moment. Like, her instant gratification is finding Kai. Like, that's what she wants in that moment. But afterwards, like, we don't know what she's gonna do. Is she gonna overthrow the government? Is she going to tell everyone about all the corruption? Who's to say? And because she doesn't have a greater plan about how she's going to take down society, if she wants to take down society, it doesn't really make her super likable as a protagonist. Her biggest motivation throughout the majority of the book is just like getting to know Kai and getting closer with him. But she constantly questions if she's actually interested in him or if it all just stems from her accidentally seeing his face. Which leads to my biggest criticism of this book. Because if you're trying to tell me that this is supposed to be like a romantic love triangle type thing, and yet the romance between the two main characters is questionable at best, what are we doing? We find out at the end of the book that the glitch on Casia's microcard was actually done on purpose. Every now and then, the society, the matching officials, they will put the face of an aberration in the pool just to see what happens. The explanation is such bull. But essentially, they say that they did it on purpose and they conducted this experiment to see how Casia would react. All of their subsequent interactions, even with them getting put into the same leisure activity, is all manufactured by the society. So like every time she thought that she was rebelling against the society by loving Kai, every single moment that she was like, ooh, I'm doing something bad, it was on purpose. They let her do that. And Casia herself has this like lingering question. It comes up pretty frequently in her narration where she's like, I don't know if I actually like Kai or if I'm only interested in him because I accidentally saw his face on my microcard. So that, plus the fact that this was all part of an experiment, we don't actually know if they really like each other or if it's just a result of like the taboo of being together. I'm sure Kai likes Casia. Whether or not Casia likes Kai back, who's to say? And I say that because there's a moment in, I want to say like the middle part of the book, where Kai reveals to Casia that the officials also told him that his face was on her microcard. So he knows in the back of his mind that they accidentally got matched with each other. And when she finds out, she gets mad about it because it takes away the magic of their relationship. Essentially, now there's no risk, there's no taboo, there's no danger of them being together. Truly, every moment that she was with him, she just liked slumming it with like the pores, if you will. So she gets upset because she was like, oh man, you knew? Dang, that really just kills the romance, doesn't it? So to base an entire story, an entire rebellion on a relationship as flimsy as theirs is insane. Because we also have to take into account that the reason that she's gravitating to Kai so much is because her relationship with Xander is too familiar. They grew up together, they've been childhood friends, she knows everything about him. All of the wonder of getting matched, you know, going on outings with this new person, finding out more information about them, like getting to know them, that's like magical. Casia doesn't have that because she knows Xander already. It was fun at first because everyone was jealous of her because everyone wanted to be matched with Xander because he's hot and blonde and blue-eyed. But now it's worn off and she's like, I'm bored. So she only gravitated towards Kai because he was mysterious. No one really knew his background. It was taboo. She wasn't supposed to be matched with him. And that's the only real reason she likes him. Other than the fact that he like gives stuff to her. Like he's the one that teaches her how to write. He's the one that teaches her about the poems and like how to like be dangerous. Other than that, I don't think she likes him. I think she has convinced herself that she likes him. It's a really bad relationship that just lacks substance in every form. But as I mentioned, Kai does teach Casia how to write, which is one of the more interesting parts about the book because he specifically teaches her how to write in cursive. And there is an interesting conversation going on now that in schools, we're not teaching cursive anymore. Even myself, I'm 24, I barely remember learning cursive. I did technically, but it wasn't like reinforced throughout my education. So even my handwriting now, I do like half cursive. It's not proper cursive. Some of the letters are, but a lot of it is just like I connect my letters. But people are bringing up that since kids aren't being taught cursive in school, that more than likely they won't be able to read cursive. So it'll make it harder to read really important documents like the Constitution, which is written in cursive. So the idea, and I'm not saying that this is necessarily like a guarantee, but some people are saying that, well, if people can't read cursive, then they could really just interpret documents that are written in cursive in any way that they want to. So like if you can't read and you're asking me, someone who does know how to read, what something says, I could really say anything. I could lie to you and you would have no idea, which is part of the reason that people are encouraging for us to teach children how to read and write in cursive. I don't know how intentional the like specific use of cursive was for this book, but I did find it interesting because of the current conversation. There's also the reoccurrence of two poems. The first one is Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas, and the second one is Crossing the Bar by Lord Alfred Tennyson. I will say I'm not super familiar with Crossing the Bar, but I have read Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, and that to use as like a basis for like rebellion, pretty good. Pretty solid. Overall, I think like the poem selections are pretty good, and I would have liked to see them get developed a bit more, because to use it as like a signal for the rebellion is already like a very good choice. But for most of the book, it's just kind of like the secret romance, like the symbol of the relationship between Casia and Kai. It's not anything more than that. It's just like their little whispered secret in the night. It's a symbol more of their affection before it turns into a symbol of the rebellion. Just in general, like the theme of rebellion is not super developed in this first book, so it just seems like wasted potential for these poems. Again, I really just can't give the book too much credit anytime I think that there's good commentary, because every time I have these moments of like, okay, that was pretty good, it gets immediately overshadowed by either romantic tension or eating disorders. Yeah, did I mention that food and size and BMI are frequently mentioned in this book? Holy eating disorder, Batman. What the f*** is this? Now, at first they play it off as part of the control aspect. The society creates very specific meals for everyone that will meet their nutritional needs. That doesn't sound too bad. We're making sure that everyone is getting the right vitamins and nutrients daily. Great. At the beginning of the story, however, there are very odd little comments thrown around about food and weight. The first introduction we have to Casia, right? Like this is, I want to say like probably the second or third page. Casia is on her way to her matching banquet and she has an artifact. So this was something that was passed down by her grandparents, and it's like a compact, a little mirror, right? And she's describing this compact where she says, quote unquote, I like it very much. Compact means small. I am small. And then she just moves on like nothing. My question is like, what was the point of saying I am small? It really, it's so odd. Then when she's at the banquet, same chapter, mind you, she's talking about the array of food and how like everyone's just too nervous. They're not touching the food at all. And she's like, but not me. I'm able to eat a little bit. And she says, though I don't gorge myself, I can eat some of everything. If I was sitting next to Casia at this matching banquet, eating because it's a dinner, she would literally look at me and be like, I'm not like these big backs that are just eating when we're supposed to be looking good for our matches. Which, side note, I hate the term big back. I think it's so stupid to like criticize your, like, I get it if you're, no, I don't get it. It's weird. God damn, if I'm hanging out with my friends and I'm enjoying my food, maybe I'm just catching a vibe. Maybe I'm just having a good time. Big back, I think, is like the worst thing to come out of TikTok. Eating disorders and like the way that we talk about food in general is like the worst thing to come out of TikTok. Because why the are we back to like 2000s diet culture? It's so ridiculous. I hate it. I hate how normalized it is. So reading this book like just really brings out the worst in me, especially like looking back at these moments because I'm just like, how are we back here already? What has happened? How have we strayed so far off the path that this is like the biggest concern? I'm like, NATO has just activated Article 4. I will be skinny during the war. Until then, I will be happily chowing down on everything that I can. My mindset, I'm like Finnick. If I see something sweet, I better grab it now before the apocalypse hits.
A PhD is a doctorate. It's literally describing a doctor.
Maybe let's refocus.
No, the problem here is that medical practitioners have co-opted the word doctor.
Okay, Captain.
Now, I know we live in a world where anything can mean anything, and nobody even cares about etymology.
I'm sorry, I don't know where all that aggression came from. It's, as you can tell, very pent up.
Apparently that's a trigger for me.
Yeah, apparently.
I'm like, listen, I've been through war, you know? I was 12 years old, hoping to get on Weight Watchers. I was going to the gym at literally 11. I've been through the war. I've gotten over it. I've done my time. I've healed. I am not letting you drag me back to 2000s diet culture. Anyway, back to the book. So right off the bat, Casia is very aware of her size and food. Then we actually learn that the society counts everyone's calories, and specifically they modified everyone's food rations for the entire week before the banquet so that if they ate a lot of food that it wouldn't negatively impact them. Listen, I'm not like an expert on diet or fitness or anything. I'm wearing a pump cover, but actually I'm like pretty jacked under this. So that's my only credit. That's my only qualification. But I think that like most people can agree that like if they did this with the purpose of like making sure that like these people's weights stay at a certain level, weight fluctuates for a number of reasons. So my question would be like, are they then also controlling these people's water intake? Are they monitoring how long these people are getting physical activity? I'm gonna say like generally, again, like with my very bare minimum knowledge, if you ate normally for a week and then one day decided to like eat a little bit more than what you typically consume, you would still have to have a lot of food and a lot of like dense calorie packed food before it would actually impact your weight. You're not gonna gain 5 pounds from one day, one meal that you eat a little bit more than you typically do. And also, I mean, like, my biggest point, who cares? Oh my God, the society has been monitoring what these people have been eating for their entire lives for 17 years up until this point. So by all means, these people are at a debatable ideal weight based on their height, their activity level, whatever, I don't know. They're at an ideal size. So if one day they go outside that, oh my God, who cares? They'll go back to normal eventually. They're not gonna suddenly become morbidly obese after one meal. So you see my frustration? Why was it included in the book? Why are we taking the time to point this out? I feel like we get the most detail about the level of control that the society has over the people when it's referencing food. Any other time, it's like just pretty basic. We don't even know exactly how these people are matched up with each other, but I can tell you that when they have their little party, that the society will count their calories for them. Again, because this is a book for young adults. What are we trying to say here? Especially in a book that I would argue is targeted to teenage girls. Why would you do this? The most impressionable group of people, especially when it comes to their appearance and their weight. Why would you put such an emphasis on this? This goes beyond just like it's part of the dystopia. It's just to like show that the society has so much control. Again, there's really no level of detail that we get for anything else the society does. And it's not even in just like the logistics of the society. It's also from Casia herself, because as if the discussion of food moderation couldn't get any worse, we later find out that Casia's meals are getting increasingly smaller. At one point in the book, Casia is eating alongside Xander, and he points out, he's like, look, they're giving me a lot of food. I think they're like bulking me up. And she looks down at her tray and she's like, I'm eating like probably half, if not less than half of what Xander is eating. So her meals are getting restricted heavily. And we find out later that it was part of the experiment because they wanted to stress her out and see how she would react if she had less food. Later on, she actually gets just like a standard meal because she was supposed to eat, I think, at home, and then she went to school or she went somewhere and they just gave her like a standard meal. And she was like, there is a visible difference from the standard to what I am eating. And when she first notices, her immediate instinct is to say, have I gotten fat? Mind you, this is like someone that we're supposed to believe is athletic. She has an athletic physique. She's skinny by all means. And if her food has been moderated the way that she says that it has been, how could she have possibly gotten... I'm like, how is that even like a language that exists in this society when everything is standardized in this way? If everyone looks the same, if everyone looks like Casia, how could they even have like an idea of what fat people look like? Because I'm gonna assume, based on like the rhetoric that they're already pushing, that the perfect society probably doesn't have fat people. Me included, I would not exist. And even if there were people that existed in this society that were just like in general bigger or weighed more than Casia, why would she think that it's a bad thing? Why would she have a negative connotation when by all means it's like, if the society is making all these meals and if the society has determined that this person is meeting all their nutritional requirements, then why would she see it as a bad thing? Because obviously the society doesn't. They keep feeding this person and they are at this specific weight. Why would she think it is then bad? I just find it interesting how that can still like exist in a dystopia. In general, I find it interesting what certain authors decide to keep, because a lot of the time it's like they will have these isolated groups of people. They haven't experienced like the world that we would know currently, right? They are completely separated from the past. They only know their current lives. So it's like, if they exist in this bubble, then how do eating disorders also exist in this bubble? How does misogyny persevere? How does racism persevere? Oh my God. I find it very interesting what authors decide to keep as like a real world element. But I will say, like, out of everything, I think this is like the worst possible thing you could keep in a dystopia. In Uglies, it made sense because it was the whole premise of the book. In this, why? It gets worse because at some point, Casia mentions that she has an athletic pass or permit of some kind. So she has a treadmill in her house that she's only allowed to run on for a certain amount of time at a certain amount of speed, and she can't go past that, because if she goes past that, if she goes faster, she pushes herself more than she's allowed to, the society will think that she's a masochist or anorexic. Walk me through this thinking. How do you get from pushing yourself to a physical limit to you're anorexic and you're a masochist? I don't get it. I don't understand why there's such a heavy focus on food and diet culture in a society that's supposed to like be perfect. And I get it, it's a dystopia, it's not actually supposed to be perfect, but let me just like put it into perspective. Casia talks like a alien for a lot of the book. When she is referencing this poem that she's never read before, that's not part of the 100 words, she keeps calling it the words. It's hard to explain, but a lot of the time she'll be like, Kai has words, and that is meant to say like Kai has the ability to write. She's like, he has words. Like, she will say these very like normal words that we as the reader can associate with our real world, but Casia is talking about it as if it's like an alien concept. But somehow anorexia and disordered eating and all these insecurities related to diet and diet culture, she knows all about. It really breaks the world for me, because for the most part this book is really just like in a shell, like a very poor imitation of what The Giver was trying to be. Even like the language and like the alien way that they talk about the things that we as the reader see as normal is like replicated in such a way that feels very like odd. The best way I can describe it is if you've watched the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, the Mantis character, that girl, the way she talks is how Casia talks throughout the whole book. So when you have that as like the basis for most of the story, and then every now and then Casia just turns into Regina George from Mean Girls out of nowhere, it breaks the continuity for me a little bit. So overall, there's a lot in this book that makes it a little distracting compared to the social commentary, and by no means is this a good dystopian. In general, the book seems to exist in a vacuum. Nothing about it is really interesting. Even like the setting itself, it's really just Casia moving back and forth between her home, the hill that she hikes on with Kai, and the game center. And these places in time, I have no reference. I really just imagine like Thneedville, but without any of the actual like interesting parts, just like plastic sheen. So overall, it's not like very interesting. There's definitely not like a lot of action or things that happen. There's some like small moments of tension, but it's not like very substantial. And just in general, anything that the book was trying to say is immediately overshadowed by either the romance and unnecessary romantic tension or weird skinny girl propaganda. So overall, I would give this book a 0 out of 5. It was good for the nostalgia, and I think that's what kept me going through most of the book. But truly looking back, especially with like all the experiences I've had, all the other amazing dystopian books I've read, this is truly like boring. This reads like the first fan fiction someone ever wrote, and it just happened to be about the giver. I would be interested to read her newer books, especially because they're adult, just to see like what's happened since then. The book took me, I want to say, about like 2 weeks to get through, just because like there's not really a lot going on. I will say the second book, like literally the first thing that happens when you pick it up is Kai, and he's on the front lines burying a body. So that was like an interesting way to start the book, and you know, it really kickstarted the series for me. I was like, oh, something interesting's going on. Don't get your hopes up. It doesn't stay throughout the rest of that book, but I'm gonna try to read the third book. I don't know. I'm not gonna like make it a priority because I got other things to do. But yeah, I think with that, that's the end of the video. There's not too much else to say. I kind of went on my little rant. I didn't know I was gonna get that worked up about the discussion of eating disorders. This book truly just like brought out the worst in me. I'm so sorry. Hopefully the only other time that will happen is when Bonds of Hercules comes out. I'm first in line for that hold, by the way, at Libby. And this video, like the anger I showed in this video, will probably only be like a fraction of the person I will be when that book comes out. Because even looking back at my review of the first book, I was tame. I kept it under wraps. I managed to seal away the monster within me. You guys don't even know. The rage. I am my father's daughter. I can be angry. But anyway, this book was bad. A fun way to wrap up this series, I will say. I do plan to read more dystopian, but I'm gonna, transition a little bit. So I'm gonna take a little break, but I will eventually read more dystopian. So if you have any suggestions, please be sure to leave them in the comments below. I do have like a going list because a lot of people were suggesting some pretty good books under my Legend review and the Maze Runner review. So I have a lot of things to check out, but I'm just a girl. I only have so much time. I'm trying to get to everyone's suggestions, so I'll let you know. Be sure to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. You can also follow me on all my social media at Listen to Kristen on TikTok, Instagram, and BlueSky. I am also on GOODREADS, so be sure to follow me on there. And while you're on the site, you can look up The Magical Morrisons, which is my debut children's series. Be sure to add it to your want to read list, and if you can, you do not have to, you can check out my pre-order links in the description below. There is currently an arc available on NetGalley for Love Potion Commotion, so if you're on the site, be sure to check it out. Otherwise, that's the end of my video. I need to go lie down. That was a good expelling of anger. It was very like cathartic, but I need to relax a little bit. So if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna have dinner and watch Spy Family for a little bit because that always makes me feel good. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. So be sure to check out Matched by Ali Condi, or probably don't. Thank you.